Welcome, everybody, to lesson 1.1. We are starting chapter 1, obviously. It's lesson 1.1. This is all about Canada's federal system of government. And our overall question, our focus question for this chapter: how effectively does Canada's federal system govern Canada for all Canadians? In today's lesson, we're going to talk about some vocabulary words. We're going to go and talk about our Constitution. We'll mention the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, talk about representative democracy, talk about the federal system of government, and everything in between. So stick around and let's learn something. It's Chapter 1, Canada's Federal Government. Welcome, everybody, to Lesson 1.1. Our overarching question, I should say, is how effectively does Canada's federal political system govern Canada for all Canadians? We are going to have four main focus questions throughout this chapter. Number one, what is the structure of Canada's federal political system? How do laws become laws? How do the media connect Canadians to their government? And then finally, our last lesson will be, what do lobbyists do? For our vocabulary in this chapter, we have govern, governance, government, executive branch, legislative branch, constituent, popular vote, minorities, judicial branch, accountable, civil service, assimilation, slogan, and bias. We're actually going to step back a few years, back to grade 7 social studies, and we're going to talk briefly about Canada's Constitution, the British North America Act of 1867. What this document does, it describes the authority, it describes the parts, and it describes the function of Parliament. This is our rule book. Now, if you think back to grade 7 social studies, we know this document, the Constitution Act, as the British North America Act of 1867. And we didn't patriate fully. We didn't get our full independence from Britain until 1982. So that's a little bit of a step back and taking a look back at grade 7 social studies. It was in 1982 that the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, the document that describes the basic rights and freedoms for all Canadians, was put into our Constitution. We will be hearing more about that in later chapters, but this is just the backbone of our chapter. It also has in the Constitution, it also has something called the amending formula. And this sets out the way in which we can make a change to our Constitution. In order for a change to take place, we have to follow the 70-50 rule, which means if you want to change the Constitution, you have to have the approval of the House of Commons. You have to have the approval of the Senate. 7 of the 10 provinces who have 50% of the Canadian population must also approve. That's the 750 rule if you want to change the Constitution. So even if you have a majority government, you cannot change the Constitution unless you have those formula pieces met. We are also, as you remember from grade 7 social, we are a constitutional monarchy. Right now, our constitutional monarch is Queen Elizabeth II. And really, it's just a symbolic role. The monarch, the sovereign, has next to no power in Canadian politics, but it's a symbolic role. And the Queen herself is not here in Canada, obviously. So it is the Governor General who represents the Queen's monarch here in Canada. We are also a representative democracy. Oh, you learned about this also in grade 7 social studies. Canada, obviously, yes, we know we are a democratic country. It is the people that govern the nations. But we can't. It's a big country. There's 38 million of us that are here in the country. We can't pick and choose and decide and debate on every single issue that is presented to Canadians. So we give our individual powers to elected representatives. And we do so by voting. So we pick the person who best represents our beliefs, our interests. They become elected. They go to Ottawa and they represent us on a federal level. But we also have representatives not just at the federal level, we have them at a provincial level and at a municipal level as well. And that is because Canada not only is a representative democracy, but we also follow the federal system of government, which means that our decisions, the government makes responsible decisions on behalf of all Canadians, and we vote for these members to represent us. And our federal system is divided into three separate levels. We have the municipal level. So take, for example, the city of Edmonton. That is a municipal government. At the provincial level, we have the province of Alberta, or maybe the province of Manitoba, Quebec, Saskatchewan. That is at the provincial level. And then at the federal level, we have the government of Canada. All three levels, they all are representative. We all have different representatives at each of those different levels, and each of those different levels are responsible for different laws of our society. Okay, so we've got municipal, we have provincial, and we have federal. If you want to take a look at a municipal election, this is on the left here. We have a map of Edmonton, and these are the ward boundaries that are in Edmonton. And the people living in each of these different wards are going to be voting for a different representative to represent them at the municipal city council level. The picture on the right is the province of Alberta, and the people that are living in each one of those divisions there will be voting for representatives to represent them at the provincial level. And then here at the federal level, it's the same thing. We have all of these different constituencies that are here. You can see Canada is divided up. This is all divided up based on population. And we vote for people to go to Ottawa and represent us from these various different regions. And because Chapter 1 is dealing with the federal government, we are going to talk about the federal government right now and Canada in an election. Currently, we have 338 different ridings, or constituencies, you can also call them, which equates to 338 seats in the House of Commons. Each riding equals 1 seat. And you can see here on the table on the right-hand side, from the largest provinces down to the smallest territories, how many ridings are represented in each of these areas. Quebec, for example, has 78 ridings, whereas Ontario will have 121 ridings. Alberta will have 34. None of it will have one member of parliament representing them in Ottawa. In total, we have 338 ridings. The winner of each riding becomes a member of parliament, an MP for short, and approximately each riding has about 100,000 people. This is representation by population. If you remember back to grade 7, this is rep by pop. You'll see later on in our studies that we do have an issue in Canada when it comes to Canadians who vote or Canadians who don't vote. 40% of Canadians, did you know? 40% of Canadians don't vote in elections, which means our governments at the federal level, provincial level, and at the municipal level is only determined by 60%, give or take. It depends on the year, but only 60% of eligible Canadians actually go out and vote. And you can see on this table here, this graph, this chart here, you can see the voting rates by age. Typically, it's the seniors that are voting. And you can see on the left-hand side, our young people, they fall well below the 60% voter turnout. And as you get older, you tend to hit that national average there of about around the 60% mark. All right, what I would like you to do is head over to your notebooks and complete the questions for this part of the chapter.